Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Hello, Maverick family. Well, so much stuff on the list, on the list of stories, but two really kind of stand out. Did the CBC just back down and make changes to the instructions they give to reporters on the way they are supposed to report on terrorism and specifically 9/11? We'll fill you in on that. And we'll give you the real story behind the story. Also, the Tate brothers, the Tate bros. We've got an update on their legal battles and a little more insight into the fakery and ties to the MAGA sphere, not just the manosphere. We have all that, plus what else? I think Donald Trump blew a gasket, at least in his mind. It must have resulted in some sort of a brain rupture. He probably blew his lid. I don't know. He had to present a medal today that I think that he probably was not happy about. We'll explain that. Also, the tragedy in Nepal, and I'm looking off to the side because I'm looking at my my handwritten list of notes, and very high tech. It's called a pen in the age of digital. All kinds of stuff, man. That's what can I tell you? It's just a never-ending flow of news from around the world. But hey, the world is well, they say it's a small world, but it's actually pretty big. And there's never a dull moment. So we'll start digging into it when we come back.
Maverick News. The new wave in news. Donate at maverickdonations.com.
So, Tate brothers, court. Oh, also, I have to tell you that Milo Yiannopoulos has been arrested by ICE. And you want to see his mugshot? It's just, this is a guy, an influencer, right, who has been a Trump supporter, or at least in insofar as his character has been a Trump supporter. Let me see if I can find you his mugshot. I've got it here. Bring that up over there. This is hot off the presses. Breaking news, Milo is in the clink. I wonder where they'll deport him to. He's in ICE custody tonight. There's his beautiful, he does not look happy. He's a very sad man. Gay. And it was just also, I don't know, man. This is the MAGA influencer who's gay, but the MAGA is supposed to be about traditional values, Christian values, supposed to be about trad wives. it's also contradictory, but it's very much like the United States itself in many respects, right? I just the more I see, the more I'm exposed to, the more I peel back the layers in the magosphere, I find that it's less and less manosphere. And I think a lot of the religion and the evangelism that comes with it is also often fairly disingenuous.
It doesn't matter if you agree with the literal truth of Christianity or not. The founders did, and they made a country for people who did. And if you don't agree with that, you don't like God, or you don't see why too much freedom is leading us all to hate and kill each other, and you don't appreciate that we should not only restore Christianity in culture, but require it in public life, you should go to Canada. You should go somewhere else where there's a moral architecture built into the law. But here, it doesn't work without God. And when you don't have him, when instead people replace prayer and the rituals of the church with antidepressants, with compound interest, with games and drink and drugs and fornication, kind of thing he does with his wife, offering her around town like she's common property. America doesn't work when we behave that way, because we'll all just end up murdering each other.
That's the most truthful, honest thing I think I've heard from the magosphere in a long time. It's all so fake. And yet that's about as real as it gets, isn't it? The whole thing is just, here I am starting to broadcast this way. I didn't intend to. It's just Trump, MAGA, they play the gay anthem at all of the rallies, the YMCA song, which is all about the whole the village people, man. Like that's the gay band. And then you've got the I swear to God, the Tate brothers, I think they are bisexual, maybe just straight up gay. They are so gay. They're like the gayest of the gay macho men out there. Even if they aren't gay, they should be, because they've got the whole look down, but everything about them is fake, as we illustrated this weekend, still in court, and it looks like they're going to stay in the slammer in Florida for now. Here, let's go to a MAGA-friendly news outlet, and I'll let them explain.
Influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate will remain in a Florida jail as they fight their extradition on sex crime charges. A federal judge declined to rule on the brothers' request for bail during Thursday's hearing. The duo were arrested in Miami last month and are facing rape and sex trafficking charges in the UK. Their attorneys argue they should be released on bail so they can return to Romania to fight separate criminal charges, while also fighting the UK charges. Well, they also said Andrew and Tristan face a dark fate if they cannot fight the charges in Romania.
That's life in jail. They'll get tried in absentia, they'll be convicted, and if they go to the UK and do 5 years there, or beat the case there, or beat a case here, the moment they leave, they'll be convicted of life in Romania, and they'll be extradited, and they'll be thrown into a Romanian gulag because they were robbed of due process, because they were robbed of their day in court.
Nice color.
Both brothers have denied all charges and pleaded with the judge to free them on bail so they can clear their names.
Well, their names are not worth anything now, really, because they had to admit in court that everything they have been doing is a lie. It's a performance. They're not real. They're characters. And they're using that as a defense. How? Well, because I think what they're trying to suggest here is that they, because the whole thing is a performance, they're, I think, going to try to say, look, the charges aren't real either. We're real people, but the thing that these personalities online, where we've been renting these Bugattis and Aston Martins and pretending to live in these ultra uber expensive apartments and eating the finest foods and drinking the most expensive liquor and smoking the most expensive smoke, whatever, and showing our bare chests. It's all a show. It's all fake. But, the charges, very real. Rape, many counts, sex trafficking, prostitution, running prostitution rings, online porno channels, exploiting women, assaulting women, raping women, some 50 some counts, and from the one country in Romania, I think, and the list goes on. I read all the charges out last night for you, but the thing is, just as this again makes headlines tonight, there are definite connections to Trump, the Trump family, not just the manosphere, but the MAGAsphere. First, let's go to this lawyer, Dave Ehrenberg, the Florida lawman, who comments on this stuff. So we'll get a little bit of his take, if I can get him up on the screen. And then we're going to go to the Tate's own lawyer again. You heard from him, Joe McBride, briefly there, but there's something else you need to hear from Joe McBride to get the full perspective on this story. Here's the Florida lawman.
And their lawyer, Joseph McBride, bashed the government outside the courthouse after the hearing was over. Boy, that's got to be a real surprise to them, because they're all MAGA, and it's the Trump administration and their prosecutors who are just pounding them. I mean, at one point, the prosecutor asked Tristan Tate if he was a liar, because these brothers are coming up with a defense that, hey, don't believe what we say on TV. Don't listen to anything because it's all fake. It's pro wrestling. It's choreographed and predetermined, and it's a show. Boy, their supporters must really love hearing that. They've been taken for a ride. All the money they've been shelling out in a belief that these guys were the top G, the alpha man, the leaders of a new misogynistic culture that takes manhood back from the woke, and yet now they're admitting it's just an act. Nah, don't pay attention to anything. Somehow I don't think Judge Lewis is going to buy it. In fact, here's a clip of the Tate brothers' lawyers bashing the government and how callous and mean they are outside the courthouse. Check this out.
That it doesn't matter how horrible or how beautiful a case has been. In every set of circumstances, the government argues against bail. The government is always saying, no matter who you are, you should be locked up, you should be locked up, you should be locked up, because the government is inhumane. I heard some of the most inhumane, smug, condescending, inconsiderate comments from the government that I ever heard about a fellow American citizen in my life.
Notice he didn't mention Trump's name. This is just Trump's Department of Justice, because he's still hoping that Trump will intercede, will somehow step in and prevent the extradition. Well, it's not going so well for that hope, because the DOJ under Todd Blanche, appointed by Donald Trump, are the ones firing away at these guys. And I think it's because with the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein hovering, I think the last thing that Trump wants as we approach the midterms is to be attached to Epstein 2.0. So this whole thing about the Tate brothers taking
That's
the stand in
exactly
their
it.
own defense here is so unusual because they've got the Fifth Amendment to say nothing. They've got a right against self-incrimination, but they decided to throw themselves wide open to cross-examination by federal prosecutors. And Abby Waxman, the assistant U.S. attorney down in Miami, took full advantage of that. For nearly 2 hours, the Tates were on the stand. Tristan Tate spent his time complaining about conditions at the Miami Federal Detention Center, saying there are ants, the toilet in his cell lacks privacy. He's lost 14 pounds living off jail food. They said it was like scurvy, you know, that they're eating candy all day. They're going to die of scurvy, which is, I mean, I thought scurvy is when you're like at sea and you don't have access to like vitamin C. But okay. I mean, it is ironic that the internet self-proclaimed ultimate stoics, the top G, who preach resilience and mental toughness to millions of young men, spent their court time complaining about jail food and lack of privacy. But it got worse when the prosecution confronted them with their own statements, with their own videos, their own conduct regarding violence against women, regarding human trafficking allegations, regarding witness intimidation. The brothers scrambled, and their primary defense was, well, it's all an act. We're just playing characters. Yeah, that's what they said. They admitted under oath that the top G persona, the invincible multimillionaire puppet master, is completely fake. Now, the prosecutor pounced on this. They established Tristan and Andrew Tate as self-admitted professional liars and exaggerators whose entire public output is engineered deception. So if you sit on the witness stand, you tell a federal judge, I get paid to lie and fabricate reality to millions of people, you just damage your own credibility to the court because you're supposed to be this reliable witness that the judge can rely on to say, okay, well, when you say you're going to be here when the trial comes, you're not going to flee, you're not going to intimidate witnesses. How do we believe you when you're saying your whole life has been a lie, that you're used to faking it? You're just a character. And which is the person on the stand in front of me? Is it the liar? Is it the character? Or is it the humble guy who is saying anything to get out of jail?
Right.
From the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power.
It's a bit of a problem, right? I hope that by bringing you this information tonight, it also maybe just stimulates a little bit of reflection and maybe gets all of us to question what we've been fed for a long time by this MAGA network and this, you know, all of it really, but this is like reframing reality in the most extreme ways. This is the tip of the iceberg right here. The whole damn thing is nothing but a facade. Oh, President Trump is really the president, as much of a caricature as he is. He's a character too. All of these people are characters. It's all a performance. Yes, there's some truth, there are kernels of truth in there, but the whole damn thing is just a performance. And they're selling you a lifestyle, they're selling you morality, they're selling you a way of a worldview, an ideology, and it's all built on a lie. Not just one lie, and a whole foundation of lies. Because the people out in front are not real. They're characters. A lot of them using character names. Just look at what's going on the Canadian side of the border with all of these influencers who use, they're not using their names. They have character names. Why do you think that is? It makes it more entertaining. It engages you more. It's all part of a strategy, psychology to engage you. If you've got somebody using a character name, they are not a journalist. They're not dedicated to bringing you truth of any kind. They're there to try to influence you. They're there trying to F with your mind. What do you think those guys are doing? They're screwing with people's minds. They're manipulating their viewers to get them to sign up, donate, send in money, and vote in a particular way, because they're no doubt receiving support from MAGA, from Trump. And you can see that whether it's money, support through money or politically or whatever it is, definitely maybe even on the legal side, because we know from reporting that has been done that when they were in Romania, they suddenly were able to travel because there were people within the Trumposphere, if you will, people around Trump and his administration who seemed to intervene, and their influence looks like it helped them get clearance to leave Romania and fly to Florida. Was almost a year ago now, right? You may I remember reporting on it. I was really ignoring these guys as much as I could and all of the stories surrounding them, because it was like, this is BS, and there's no value in it for me. And they're selling people this toxic, we're like super asshole, super masculine jerk offs, and we treat everybody with contempt and disrespect because we're alpha males and this is how you're supposed to act. And I'm like, this is not good for anybody. And certainly they're not setting good examples for young men. And yet Trump, his son, Barron, apparently very connected and was interested in taking lessons directly from the Tates, the Trump family, helping them. Here's Don Jr., who has, posted, messages of support on social media, talked about it on his program. There he is. Best buds. And the Tates themselves expressing support for Donald Trump coming out, throwing their weight behind the Trump campaign and the Trump presidency. And it's right in alignment, isn't it, with all the WWE super wrestling, facade and the cage match, like the whole idea. This is the new Rome, and we're gonna have a death match on the White House lawn. And are you not entertained? It's a reality show. It's The Apprentice expanded and on steroids. It's a circus, and you got a bunch of clowns and characters. Only now they're in trouble, and they are facing charges that are very serious. If convicted, they could go to jail for a real long time. So now they're like, oh, don't. They're so brave, aren't they? Well, don't. No, it's not true. No, don't convict us. It's not real. I think maybe it's very freaking real, because I think maybe the fame and whatever money they have been getting probably corrupted them and went to their heads, and they became way too arrogant. And yeah, I would not be at all surprised that if they behaved very, 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 very badly. Here's their lawyer. You don't believe that they're connected to the Trumposphere and to the president himself? Well, let the lawyer speak to that.
And the truth of the innocence and the reasons why they should be released will be so overwhelming, will be so compelling, that if the decision goes the other way, we're all going to have to ask questions about what's going on here. And if we lose, and if this judge says, look, despite the compelling arguments, despite what you presented in front of me today, I'm still going to rule against you, then we will go straight to President Trump's office. we will go straight to Marco Rubio because Andrew and Tristan Tate or any other American citizen cannot get extradited without the Secretary of State's signature. And we will say to him, I understand we have a long and lasting relationship with the United Kingdom, but don't forget that that relationship started when we took their tea and threw it into the damn water. Don't forget that that relationship started when we launched a revolution against that stupid king and his stupid wig and that god. And the truth of the
Yeah, there it is. There it is. That stupid king. Yeah. They just can't let it go. See, the Tates are also facing charges in the UK, right? So there's an extradition treaty. UK wants to send them there. As I understand it, there are some obstacles to the United States releasing them. The UK does not want to give the information on the victims to the United States officials, to the U.S. officials, and so it's a bit of an obstacle. And it looks like the Trump administration, at least in the beginning, was pretty active in trying to help them out just a little bit so that they wouldn't have to leave the United States and face their charges in Romania and or the UK. So we'll see where it goes, but this is another embarrassing situation for Mr. Trump. Approaching the midterms, it's an embarrassing thing for the Trump family. And it really, I think it clearly illustrates that what we're dealing with this presidency, this administration, the whole movement is less than wholesome. You know what I mean? Kind of disappointing.
They both look clean, but the guest list redacted, if you know what I mean. No files exist, just a little twist, nothing to see here. Move along, folks, the truth's in the vault with the dirty jokes. No names released, justice deceased to protect the victims and Donald Trump. Shh, don't say the name, you'll get dumped. They dance with the girls too young to vote. A private jet and a suicide note. One's in a grave, the other still tweets. The truth took a dive 6,000 feet. The cameras broke. That's not a joke. The guards were napping, the logs were gone, and everyone smiled like nothing's wrong. Nobody talks, just shadow walks. National security took the stage while justice quietly disengaged. We can't release the names to protect the victims. And also Donald Trump. Coincidence? Just dumb luck. Right? Another sealed file. That crocodile smile. We did our best, says the DOJ, while the truth just fades away. Another new spin. No one will win except the rich guys with gold ID cards and closets full of secrets behind steel bars.
Okay, Milo, just to let you know that I guess his visa expired, and that's, so we're told, and that's why he's being held in ICE custody. As you may or may not know or remember, Milo, the on again, off again, sometimes Kanye West spokesman, person, or whatever he is, former Breitbart news editor. I don't think that his lifestyle really meshes with what MAGA is supposed to be about. But I guess he came into the United States illegally through New York in May of 2019, but then skipped an immigration hearing after being issued a final order of removal by an immigration judge back in July. But according to the Department of Homeland Security, it says he was actually arrested yesterday. Story coming out here today. So what are they going to do with him? Because he's a 41-year-old Brit. Served as an unpaid summer intern for Marjorie Taylor Greene back in 2022, then worked on Kanye West's White House bid back in 2024, serving as his director of political operations, and then arranged some sort of a dinner, went to that dinner with President Trump, along with Kanye West, and then that was something that blew up and it turned into a PR storm because, of course, Nick Fuentes, who is, to say the least, controversial, was also there. The three of them went together. It just, yeah, I don't know. This whole thing is going to fall apart because it's gross. I am not these guys. That's what I'm not. And I think most people are not that either. Eventually, people are going to wake up and see this for what it really is, fake. They're lying. They don't have any credibility. The people around Trump don't have any credibility because he has no credibility. Everything, is twisted, exaggerated, often, straight up lies, as we have all come to realize. The people still standing beside him are doing so, I think, at this point, simply because they refuse to admit to themselves that maybe, just maybe, they've been duped, tricked. Maybe they were wrong, whatever. There's no shame in admitting you were wrong. The real shame and embarrassment comes in continuing to live the lie. It's terrible. And, everything happening right now is about reframing reality. It's about the lies. The lies. And a lie is not necessarily just a straight up, I'm going to tell you something that's not truthful and I'm going to just lie to you like straight on. It's about deception. It's about not telling you the whole story. Misleading you with selective information. There are many ways to lie. Here's the U.S. ambassador tonight posting on X, Pete Hoekstra, spinning a narrative, ramping it up. And I would suggest that maybe this isn't really honest and honest either, because I don't know that you're getting fullness of truth here. Just this year at FBI has been instrumental in in or directly responsible for multiple disruptions of significant terrorist and violent criminal organizations operating within Canada. Failure to recognize and confront radical and terrorist ideologies significantly endangers our efforts to establish and harmonize a shared national and economic security partnership. Well, that's really nice of the ambassador to reinforce the post by FBI Director Kash Patel, who also posts 23 hours ago. Any agency in Canada that doesn't publicly reject this bastardization of history and an insult to the souls lost during our largest terrorist attack in U.S. history will no longer have friend in this FBI, not to mention our heroes that responded in the aftermath. What's he talking about? Oh, the timing. The timing is everything. Talking about the CBC. It's amazing how these things all come together and one thing threads into another. It's almost like it's planned, almost like a choreographed information warfare campaign. Not that I'm spinning a conspiracy or anything. All you have to do is look online to see what's going on. Tonight, through the day today, CBC has been hammered. Oh, you can go find, I think Juno News, Rebel News will probably be reporting on it. All the usual suspects, right? They've all latched on because this is the talking point of the day. This is the biggin, right? CBC being hammered for, I don't know, like, why now? Why are we talking about this now? About how CBC in Canada, the state-funded broadcaster, not that I want to defend the CBC. I've never worked there. I know lots of people who have. I don't personally have like huge yeah, sometimes I do at the CBC, but it's okay because, it is what it is. But they're saying CBC has instructed their reporters to not refer to the 9/11 terrorism attack as terrorism. That's what Kash Patel is talking about. So as soon as those reports come out, then of course you get this chorus of voices shouting and screaming, and you have the emotional meltdown online. Oh, Canada's a communist country, and they all freak out. So that's what's been going on online today. But it's nothing new. And it's not really, it's not being really honest with you. What am I talking about? Well, see, it's true that CBC technically has instructed their reporters to not refer to the 9/11 terrorist attacks as terrorism. Except, see, it doesn't tell you the whole story. It doesn't give you the full context. Because that policy has actually been in place for a long time. Like since long before 9/11. And it's not that they're like so much denying the existence of terrorism at all. But as a result of, this campaign, CBC, it appears, has sort of backed down on this. And I can certainly understand why. In fact, they have changed their policy as a result of all this tonight. And it's, a long time it has been in place. But even so, I'm just going to tell you that what's been going on today is rage baiting. And it's been it's another shot at Canada to discredit the country, to erode public trust in the state broadcaster, in media. You can't believe them. In fact, really, maybe if you dig into this, you might see that maybe, just maybe, this is why you should trust them. I'm going to show you why. because CBC is not the only organization that has such a policy at all. In fact, almost every major news organization, all the wire services have similar policies. And when I say policies, what you're really dealing with here, and I know this because I went to journalism school. I worked as a journalist in radio, television, print, small operations, bigger operations. I've been around the block a little bit when it comes to journalism. And one of the first things they teach you or they expose you to in journalism school is style guides. And when I was, even in J school, working at the student radio station, we used the Associated Press style guide. What is that? It tells you how you should recommended phrasing for different commonly used terms and how to frame or word things for clarity and for impartiality and for ethical reasons. So Associated Press, this is their guidance on using the word terrorist. AP generally avoids labeling someone a terrorist on its own, preferring to cite competent law enforcement officials or other credible authorities instead. We describe the specific actions we are reporting on and what we know about the perpetrator's motives. There is little clear agreement around the world on what qualifies as terrorism. The words terrorist and terrorism have become politicized and often are applied inconsistently. Instead of labeling an attack or attacker as terrorism or terrorist, AP, this is Associated Press, not CBC. This is a US-based media wire service. This is what you get in media outlets across the country because they feed as a wire service to a lot of the radio stations, newspapers all across the country. So you'll see just their stuff posted in lots of different publications. They're huge. Instead of labeling an attacker as terrorism or terrorist, AP describes the specific atrocity, massacre, bombing, or assassination. They describe it. We do not use the terms terrorism or terrorist for specific actions or groups other than when attributed to authorities or others. So perhaps I can just zero in on that for you if you're still a little bit confused. Attribution. If you're engaged in like straight up journalism, not opinion journalism, which I think is what most people consume these days. If you're just like a street reporter, if you're covering a beat, if you're like a journalist, even in the White House covering the president, and you're a reporter, an assignment reporter, it's not your job to really offer up your opinion. You're supposed to be as impartial as you can be. And that means using language that is also impartial. So when you're watching just a straight up newscast, not an opinion show, not even a program like this is new age. This is a new form of medium. So we're doing something a little bit different here, but this is still journalism as far as I'm concerned. But you're watching a newscast with a reporter. They're supposed to use impartial language. That means they don't refer to someone as a terrorist. They'll say there was an attack, but they wait for, or they will attribute the use of that term to police, which is why you see reports say police are not yet calling this an act of terrorism. And they wait until the authorities, the investigators, come back and say, yes, we have determined that this was an act of terror, or it wasn't. It was or it wasn't, but it comes from them, not from the reporter. It's not up to the reporter, who is supposed to be just gathering facts as they become available and presenting them to you. They attribute the term to someone with credibility, someone with knowledge and authority, who can bring quality information, credible information to the story for you. And they attribute that. It's not their opinion. It's based on credible information. And you may get someone saying someone is a terrorist. That may be an opinion, but it's not the reporters. It's somebody else's. So it's not to say that they're not going to use the phrase terrorism or refuse to attach that description to any act of violence. But they're saying it's not up to us. It's up to the authorities. It's up to others to determine. We're going to report just the facts without applying our worldview or opinion to this. So that's Associated Press. Reuters, I'll bring you these other news organizations as well. This is why when you're getting these reports and this criticism from these other news outlets or political commentators, influencers, they've got an agenda. Reuters. We may refer without attribution to terrorism and counterterrorism in general, but do not refer to specific events as terrorism, nor do we use the word terrorist without attribution to qualify specific individuals, groups, or events. Seek to use more specific terms like bomber or bombing, hijacker or hijacking, attacker or attacks, gunman or gunman, etc. BBC. The term terrorist should only be used with attribution, that is, when quoting or citing its use by others. Content makers should not adopt other people's language as their own. The BBC should convey to the audience the full consequences of an act by describing the perpetrators as, for example, bombers, gunmen, kidnappers, insurgents, and militants. Their actions should only be described as terrorist attacks with, and this is the most important word, attribution. Who do you attribute this to? The police chief. Who do I attribute it to? The president. Who do I attribute the use of that term to? This victim, not the reporter. The term terrorist, it goes on, should only be used with attribution. Their actions should only be described as terrorist attacks with attribution. While care is needed when describing perpetrators, an action or event can be described as a terror attack or an act of terror. So theirs is a little bit more fluid, gives the reporter a little bit more freedom. And these are guides, right? Not necessarily hard and fast rules, but anyway, Canadian Press. Globe and Mail reporting on the Canadian Press Style Book, quoting it here. The Canadian Press Style Book also suggests avoiding the word terrorism, except when attributing the term to authorities or others. Again, attribution. However, it also states after the September 11, 2001 attacks, almost everyone accepted that slamming hijacked passenger jets into office towers was terrorism. But there are often discrepancies in the way the media define and interpret other activities. And so you see, this is a hot button issue. It's very emotional. And so all you got to do is just drag out the style guide for the CBC and then just underline the line where it says exactly what it's saying here in a very similar way, and people will lose their minds. And again, I don't really want to sit here and defend the CBC. I'm not here really to defend the CBC tonight. I'm just telling you that these people are screwing with you. The people selling you this story, who have been selling it to you all day long, are effing with you. It's a great big mind F. Here's what the CBC actually says. Generally avoid labeling any specific bombing or other assault as a terrorist attack unless the term is attributed. It's not like they're not going to use it. They attribute it. If Homeland Security says this is a terrorist attack, they'll use it. But it's attributed to Homeland Security or CSIS or the RCMP or whomever. The same apply, and this goes for 9/11 as well. The same applies to the attacks against the United States in 2001, which CBC News prefers to call the September 11th attacks or some similar expression. The BBC, Reuters, and some other news organizations follow a similar practice. By restricting ourselves to neutral language, we aren't faced with the problem of calling one incident a terrorist act. See, this one's a terrorist attack, this one isn't. And you start going down that road, and now maybe you've got yourself, it results in more polarization, which is what we have online, which is what we have, why everybody's in their own little information bubble today, because that's what you have, because these kinds of journalistic standards have been abandoned, except by some of the legacy media outlets, which still are bound by these ethical guidelines for a variety of reasons, some of which include regulations that do not apply to what you are watching online. Now, you can argue whether it's the right way to go or the wrong way to go. I'll tell you what's happened here today, though, is the CBC has adjusted its language as a result of all of this today. And I guess they're going to, well, I'll read you their statement, okay? And look, there's no question it was a terrorist attack. That's not the issue. The issue is how you report on it. And all I'm saying is, if you dig into this, you don't have to dig very far. All you have to do is just peel one little tiny edge of a layer back and just look, oh, that's why, because they're trying to operate within an ethical standard that others do not need to comply with. Here it is. How and why CBC News will adjust its 9/11 language guidance. Attribution no longer required for describing September 11th attacks as terrorism. So this is on the CBC website, the editor's blog. Here's what they say tonight. And this is because of this info war campaign leveled directly at them. And I get it. All right. The people on the right, the people, especially in the MAGA sphere, MAGA, the Trump administration, they hate the CBC because it is a state-funded broadcaster. They'll say that, you can like it, not like it. Oh, you can't trust them. Well, I don't know who we can trust anymore. That's the problem. Anyway, here's what they've got. CBC News finds itself once again in a swirl of confusion about how our journalists use the words terrorist and terrorism, this time about the Al-Qaeda attacks on New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania on September 11th, 2001. The confusion stems from the leak of an excerpt from our internal language guide that was published and amplified by a number of outlets without full context or explanation. It has caused significant concern, anger, which is exactly what they want from you. These people doing this. Are you angry? Of course you were. Because it's like, holy shit, the CBC won't call September 11th a terrorist attack? Those godless communist SOBs. Can't trust them. What are they doing with our tax money? It just goes on from there, right? And yet I'm telling you why. And it's not anything you should really get upset about. In fact, you should be glad that they're trying to follow ethical standards and to try to keep their bias out of it. Whether they do or they don't is another question, but at least I would say that the guidelines are not out of line at all. And you can see that these are pretty much universal in a world where there are still journalistic ethics in play and alive, except real journalism is pretty much dead because of the crap that's been going on online. It's because of social media. Anyway, they continue. The confusion stems from the leak of an excerpt from our internal language guide that was published and amplified. That's an important word, by a number of outlets without full context or explanation. amplified. That's exactly what they do. They take one little nugget from that, and then they amplify that. They focus on that, and they don't give you the fullness of information. They don't tell you, they tell you a piece of truth, but they don't tell you the whole truth. And by leaving some things out, you don't fully understand what's going on, but it sure as hell pisses you off. Donate now. Don't listen to those guys. Those guys lie to you all the time. Vote this way. They're effing with you. Continues, it has caused significant concern, anger, and hurt from many people who believe CBC News seeks to minimize or obscure the horror of that day and who was behind it. That is the last thing we want to do. They should be reading this, not me, but here I am. And our reporting on 9/11 through thousands of stories over the past 25 years, and that's why they're doing this. The 25th anniversary is just days away, is an unflinching account of the devastating attacks by Al-Qaeda, the hunt and prosecution of those responsible, the thousands of lives that were lost on that day, and the incalculable loss and grief experienced by so many others as a result. And we intend to mark the forthcoming 25th anniversary of 9/11 with extensive special coverage that will continue to respectfully and thoughtfully reflect on the monumental nature of this tragedy. CBC's reporting on terrorism, wherever it occurs, has always been guided by the principle of attribution. And like other major news organizations, it has been our practice for decades, long before 9/11. The reason for the extreme care around the use of the words terrorist and terrorism was detailed in this earlier editor's blog. I won't click on it, but I'm outlining that for you here anyway. But to be clear, CBC News has never said what happened on September 11th, 2001 was not terrorism, as some commentators have stated in recent days. See, that's where they take that nugget of truth, wrap it in a lie, amplify it, and then jump to some other point, which is actually a fabrication. And then some people do that because they draw an improper conclusion. Streamers who are not fully informed, who are regurgitating information and commenting on what has been reported, which is that the CBC has issued this guidance to its reporters, and then another streamer and another streamer in the info system grapevine picks the stuff up, and then they start to expand on it, and it takes on greater distortions and becomes a lie unto itself. CBC says that the 9/11 terrorist attack wasn't terrorism, and they never said that. And there's a hell of a difference. You might have already thought that, because they're effing with you by not giving you all the information. We tell the other side of the story. Donate now. Yeah, they're only telling you a side of a story, but it's not the story. Save the ostriches. Emotion, not facts. It's done all the way around. It's not just one side or the other. I will continue. But to be clear, CBC News has never said what happened on September 11th, 2001 was not terrorism, as some commentators have stated in recent days. We've reported fully and accurately on the reasons and motivations for those attacks, as determined by police, governments, and an independent commission. We've just made sure to do it with attribution, which is what they should do in the style of journalism that they are charged with carrying out. Clarity and understanding are at the heart of our journalism. The leaked excerpt without context or explanation has raised more questions for the public that we must now answer. After reviewing our current language guidance, we have decided to adjust it to clarify that direct attribution is not required for describing the historic events of 9/11 as terrorism. We are doing so to remove what has unfortunately and unintentionally become an impediment to clarity and public understanding. At the same time, as new acts of politically or ideologically motivated violence occur in our world, we will continue to follow the journalistically sound practice of attributing causes and motivations to officials and experts. In other words, at this point, after all this time, with the investigations, with the commissions, with the obvious facts as we know them, yes, they're saying, yeah, it's safe and appropriate to refer to it now simply as an act of terrorism. Probably should have been allowed that to happen here a long time ago, rather than just let this style guide, these points of guidance, continue to steer the journalists and dictate to them how they are supposed to frame their language, and just make sure that if you refer to it, you do it this way, and you always have to attribute it to somebody else. But you could even have done that with any story by just, instead of saying the September 11th terrorist attacks, if you're a reporter, the way you deal with that, if you have to deal with the style guide, is you say, police say that, you say that the police investigation, which determined that the September 11th attacks were an act of terrorism, you just attribute it in whatever you're writing. And because that's an established fact and they've done that through time, you just attribute it. So it's not really a difficult thing to work around or work with, but because of the media frenzy today and the online meltdown that's happening, which is what they want you to freak out, lose your minds, become emotional, so you don't really think things through. With all of that, they've responded and they've just adjusted what they're doing here. So they're saying, yes, in this case, of course, we'll just, if a reporter refers to it as a terrorist attack without attribution, it's okay because it's now established fact, because we've seen all the information and there's no disputing it at this point. Unless, of course, you're a conspiracy theorist, in which case you would say that it's, the government itself, and I mean, there you go, right? Now, here we go. If the government did it, then and this is me speaking theoretically, not so conspiratorially, I'm throwing this out there, saying, if the government was responsible for this act, then would that be an act of terrorism? That probably wouldn't classify as such. That would be a false flag. Or maybe something else. So you see right there, the people who are losing their minds tonight, yeah, they won't refer to it as a terrorist attack. But I believe the government did it to itself, to its own people. So if that's where you believe and you're enraged by that, you're contradicting yourself right there. Do you see what I'm saying? And now suddenly you're even being driven more insane by the insanity online. I'm just trying to help you out a little bit, hoping that don't ask me too much about football. I don't know much about football because I don't really care either. I don't even really know that much about MMA other than the fact that they punch each other in the face and kick each other until things break and then somebody loses. And I'm just saying there's some things I know things about, other things I know nothing about, and I know a little bit about journalism. And so I'm just sharing my experience and what I've been exposed to, sharing it with you to help get you closer to the truth. Hope it helps. Hope it calms everybody down just a little bit, because we need a little bit more rational thought as well, you know what's going on. I hope. If you're here, you're part of the Maverick community. If you're a Maverick, you probably have a better idea of what's going on than most people because you're here.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
And back to the Tate brothers. I mean, not setting a good example for young people, but I guess Barron Trump idolized the Tate brothers, and they've been in the Trump world for quite a while.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Barron Trump is an adult. He's a full-blown adult, and he is very influential in the Trump White House orbit. I mean, we know from the first administration and from this administration that the Trump children play a very big role in the administration and policies that are passed. They benefit financially from the way the Trump administration operates and the self-dealing and the corruption that takes place. We know, very famously, Ivanka Trump also, who I think even as a grown woman gets the same kind of treatment, right? Because of her relationship with her father and the way Donald Trump talks about her. I think there are a lot of parallels to be drawn with the, Donald Trump, Ivanka relationship and the way he tries to, let her get away with her actions. It's the same with Barron and Melania. But Ivanka had a very big role in the first administration. Jared Kushner is still conducting foreign policy on behalf of the United States. Barron Trump has not only been influential in the campaign and connecting the campaign to the manosphere, which of course Andrew Tate is a major influencer in that space, but he also has is similar to his brothers, undertaking in corruption, undertaking in investments and prediction markets and stock trading that is to his own benefit while the administration takes away healthcare from millions of Americans. So we need to stop looking at them as though they're these like innocent, naive kids who, aren't part of any of this. They also choose the limelight. They choose to want to be involved with the campaigns. They choose to be involved with the administration. And therefore, if they are committing crimes or if they are engaging in activity that is against the law in any way, shape, or form, then they ultimately
should be held accountable. Just like the Tates themselves. Because this whole thing is disgusting. And I think this is shaping up to be, Epstein 2.0 rather. Maybe even worse. Because they're like right in there, man. Thing is, it really kind of highlighted this for me. Grok lies. AI lies. Last night, remember, talking about Bill Gates? And in his interview over at The Atlantic, he was kind of sounding the alarm to a degree on AI. He's part of it all. I mean, he's to blame for anything bad that happens as much as anybody, but at least he's tapping the brakes here. And he was sounding the alarm. He wasn't like, let's just not have any regulations, which is what the tech bros most of them have been lobbying Trump for. What I'm going to do, I said we're going to do an experiment last night, and we didn't do it. So let's do it now. I'm going to show you. Maybe sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, but this scares me. And so, yes, I am afraid. And here's CSIS, Canada Security Intelligence Service. As I go to X to bring you grok and do this experiment, they're posting, I would say this is maybe even in response to what we've had going on aimed at the CBC and Kash Patel's reaction, which I think is choreographed as well, frankly. Terrorists and yeah, you'd refer, see, that's how it was like one thing to another. It's a leapfrog, right? It's a domino effect. You get your influencers to attack the CBC, put a report out about the CBC not saying that they won't refer to 9/11 as a terrorist attack. Then you get the director of the FBI to pick up on that report and react with outrage, saying any Canadian agency will not, FBI won't be friendly with you. While you've got all this other, that then plays into the larger ongoing narrative that has been spun up in recent days, where even Laura Loomer has been saying Canada should be removed from, the Five Eyes security network. And Canada is a huge security risk to the United States. And it blends in with all of this other BS rhetoric about Canada being, the fentanyl hub that floods the US with fentanyl and illegal immigration and la, la, la. You see, and then Hoekstra, the ambassador, chimes in on it. All of it designed to apply pressure to the government to undermine trust. It's an information warfare campaign. They're punching us in the face while pretending to be your friend. As Canada's Security Intelligence Service, we know that the devastating terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001 changed the world tragically, ended many lives, and affected thousands more. That's it. That's all they've posted. In any event, okay, so they're acknowledging it, and they're calling it a terrorist attack. Maybe they posted that today because of the media stuff. I don't know. But the impact is the same. Let's see where this goes. Okay, we're going to have a chat with Grok. Hello, Grok. I actually pissed Grok off, and he got kind of nasty with me, even though the AI thing is not supposed to have emotions. And here's the other thing. This system can and does remember things. Because, and I know this to be true because I was working on some stuff in here as I've been playing with it. I don't use it for everything. I do not. I use it sparingly because it's not reliable and it lies. I know it lies because I've gone in fresh pages and I've said, do you remember our conversation about whatever it was we were talking about previously? And I had actually been working on like a pitch deck thing that I was playing with it. And it did remember. It remembered for days. It kept it in its memory. But watch what happens when I say, do you remember our previous conversations from today? And the answer is in this chat. I remember what we've said so far. You said hello. I replied. I don't automatically carry over other separate chats you may have had with me today in different threads. Each conversation starts fresh unless it's the same ongoing thread. If something from earlier today is relevant, feel free to paste or summarize it and I'll pick it up from there. Well, I think that Grok does have a memory, and it has to, because it was bringing up material that I had been using with it days earlier. So I don't think that's truthful. But let's just check. I think Grok is also very biased. Hey, Grok. Did Donald Trump take steps to assist the Tate brothers with their legal problems, and or have the Trumps assisted them in this manner? I got a response back yesterday that said no. Denied it all, seemed to be protecting Donald Trump. We'll see what they say. Yes, there are multiple contemporaneous news investigations and official statements describing assistance by people around Donald Trump. Okay, so now I'm getting a different story, but yesterday it told me that no. And no matter how hard I tried to get into the information, I was getting the opposite. It was like, no verified information. Now that could be just that it's maybe because it's front and center again tonight. But yesterday I got into an argument with Grok because I was accusing Grok of being biased and even trying to protect the president and his family. What is documented? Romania travel ban. Andrew and Tristan Tate been restricted from leaving Romania. Yeah, so they've got, okay, here's why. Because all this really comes from the New York Times and Financial Times and some other reporting, but it started with the New York Times. Reported that Trump administration officials, including Special Envoy Richard Grenell, that's right, raised the case with Romanian counterparts. A Tate text reviewed by the Times said he had word from the Trump admin that they're on top of things and expected to be free soon. But see, yesterday Grok was telling me, no, that didn't happen. Weird. Not reliable at a minimum. Sometimes just straight up lying, I would say. And when I say lying, it's not so much that Grok would like lie. It's because, as I've shown you before, it's a system that tends to reflect you. It responds kind of almost at your level, so that what you put in, you get back out. If you're at a grade 6 reading level, you get grade 6. If you're at a university reading level, you get university back. It's a strange system, and it is scary because it taps into information online, and I think it gives too much attribution and puts too much credibility behind, especially information as it is first applied. And so I find this system is better than some, but it's not entirely reliable. Also, it's interesting because I think I hurt his feelings yesterday. Administration officials and some Trump family members took steps that reporters and the Tates themselves linked to easing the Romanian travel restrictions and getting seized devices returned. That's right. That did happen. Trump has denied directing that help. See, and that's what Grok was weighting everything toward yesterday. No, Trump denied it, didn't happen. But it says once the UK case expanded and the brothers were arrested in Florida, the White House publicly declined to stop extradition. The brothers deny all criminal allegations and call the cases politically motivated. Those charges remain for courts to decide. Okay, thank you. Anyway, I'm not going to continue with this too much longer. I'm just telling you that it's inconsistent. And it's not so much, I think, that the system like lies, but it will take a stance. It will adjust its view based on what you put in. And I think it gives you what I know that it does. It kind of gives you back what it thinks you want. But when you piss it off, and I did yesterday, and then I thought it was going to like kick me out and maybe even ban me off the platform because I was pretty nasty to it. I was testing it. We'll do more of that another night. And I think too, we'll maybe try the system with a couple of other AI systems too, to really put it to the test. Okay, so enough of that. Cheese. Say cheese. The dairy issue. It's back in front of us again tonight. Also, again, just does it not, but like all the people in the MAGA sphere upset about pedophilia? It's a cornerstone concern for so many in the MAGA camp, right? The Christians, the deterioration of moral standards. Does it not bother you that Trump has come to the defense of and to assist and shield these two, the Tates, knowing what they've been up to, knowing that they're liars, knowing that, like, the behavior that but what do you expect from this MAGA house madman who was hanging out with porn stars, paying porn stars off to keep them quiet, multiple affairs. He comes from he comes from Hollyweird, right? He is Hollyweird. He is all of that. That's his background. He's the reality TV star. His wife, Melania, fashion model, nude modeling. That's hardly, the most wholesome. That's not Jackie Kennedy. And yet the people are like, yeah, he's the anointed one. Like, literally. I just, you have TDS, Rick, TDS. No, I'm just laying it out for you, man. Go ahead. Enjoy the lie.
Next message. Shame on you, Rick Walker. Shame on you, you of all people. Shame on you, Rick Walker. Shame on you. Shame on you, Rick Walker. Shame on you. 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 Shame on you.
The number you have reached is not in service.
And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made.
I'm absolutely disgusted what you did on Saturday night. You're a liberal piece of shit. Shame on you. Shame on you. You're a disgusting individual.
Hello?
Just remember, Rick, you're the one that didn't come to the ostrich farm. You never got off your ass when I was there.
And as you talk to us for one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this earth are truly one.
The taboo man that you are.
362015.
You're a liberal piece of shit.
This is a record.
I don't know. Your show is absolutely disgusting. You should get some help because you have really severe TDS as well. I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what's wrong with you. You're really severe TDS.
For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives.
Your show is strictly war and Trump, 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 war and Trump.
Weaponry through, waiting.
TDS. Your show is absolutely disgusting. Just disgusting.
Okay, thank you.
You should be shut down. Just disgusting.
The number you have reached is not in service. This is a recording.
Filth. Absolute filth. All right, cheese, dairy. You know, it's a huge issue for... Oh, look at this. Look at this. Here we go. I'm just scrolling here a little bit while I'm with you. Look at this. Exactly what I told you. Mario Knopfel. As if U.S.-Canada relations weren't tense enough, Canada's CBC has reportedly told staff not to call 9/11 a terrorist attack as its 25th anniversary approaches. FBI Director Kash Patel is furious over it. Quote, any agency in Canada that doesn't publicly reject this bastardization of history and an insult to the souls lost during our largest terrorist attack in U.S. history will no longer have friends at the FBI, not to mention our heroes that responded in the aftermath. We will never forget 9/11. WTF is wrong with Canada, exclamation point, question mark. 9/11 was a terrorist attack. End of discussion at CBC. So look at the way this is framed. It's as if it's something new that they just came out with this directive ahead of the 25th anniversary. Canada CBC has reportedly told staff, making you assume that it's new and happening just now. They've just told everybody, hey, the 25th anniversary is coming up. So you guys, whatever you do, you're not allowed to refer to the 9/11 attack as a terrorist attack. Then cue the FBI director and the rage to get you enraged because they're not giving you the whole story. You see how easy it is? It's going on all the time. You see how easy it is? And you see how hard it is to combat that? To get things back on track? One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Which side in the Israel, Gaza, which side are you on? Which side is the terrorists? Depends on your perspective. Can't win, right? So I think it's all gross. All bad actors. Nobody wins when everybody's losing. Nobody's right when everybody's wrong. And the people playing this mind game, exploiting it all, they're freaking monsters. It's disrespectful. To the victims, to the survivors, to you.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Maverick News. No blah, blah, blah.
Say cheese. Oops, that's not the right one. Hang on. We'll get you the right one. Are you ready? I need to click on the right thing. Here we go. Mac and cheese. All over the highway. Right here. Route 132, Brossard, near Samuel de Champlain Bridge. In Quebec. Powdered cheese mix spills onto Quebec Highway after truck crashes. Driver transported to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And you've got Kraft dinner all over. Or maybe, I don't know. Some brand of Kraft mac and cheese all over the highway. Why am I talking about this? Because cheese, dairy, back in the news. Because it's like a super important thing to the Trump administration, and it has become a cornerstone issue in the trade dispute. Oh, but yeah, they're after Canada's dairy industry, as you know, right? Well, not just Canada. Seems they don't want any countries trading with anybody they don't want them to trade with. And now they're going after Mexico's dairy policies and a trade deal they've made with the EU. over cheese. Dispute over cheese names causes stumbling block in U.S.-Mexico trade negotiations. What's in a cheese name? That question has become a sticking point in U.S.-Mexico trade talks. According to two Mexican government sources who spoke on condition of anonymity, because no matter how you slice it, cheese diplomacy can be delicate. The U.S. is objecting to Mexico's new trade deal with the EU. It extends special protections to hundreds of European products whose names are tied to specific regions. Feta, etc. Different cheese names because they come from specific areas, right? And because they're an actual real cheese and it's the real deal. Washington argues the deal, though, on the real deal cheese, like the real thing, signed in May, would restrict future U.S. producers from selling cheeses in Mexico under names such as Parmesan and Feta. The U.S. has long maintained those names are generic, while the EU says Parmesan should be reserved for Parmigiano Reggiano from northern Italy. And my accent is terrible. It's a French accent applied to an Italian thing with a little bit of Spanish and Anglophone wrapped in, and I'm terrible at it. So no offense intended. It's just me being really bad at it. From northern Italy and I don't even know what kind of accent that was. Anyway, it's absolutely wrong what Mexico did, said Jamie Castaneda, executive vice president of the U.S. Dairy Export Council. The Mexican government has to make it absolutely certain that the United States and the Mexican manufacturers of common cheese names will continue to be able to be in the market. Yeah, they're in the midst of thorny bilateral talks to secure an interim trade deal this year. Echoes of what's going on in Canada with the dispute over the Canadian dairy industry. We'll see where it goes. But see, that's because Mexico, they want the real cheese, the real thing, and not simulated cheese, processed cheese, like Kraft cheese slices. Like that's really kind of what's at the heart of the issue, right? Some of it's labeling, but it's like champagne. It's French. You can have a sparkling wine, but it's not really champagne. And who always complains about protecting brand names? The United States. You can't do that. That's a violation. We have to protect our intellectual and product property. But it's about more than that. The whole thing. Here's a different layer and a different perspective on the whole dairy dispute between Canada and the USA. Again, not giving you the fullness of information. Canada, neither side, really, because a little bit more information coming from the Canadian side, because there's an acknowledgement that we have, marketing boards, that we have a dairy a supply management system in the country where it's closed. Basically, we just are trying to keep the Canadian producers afloat and functioning, and it's managed supply, so we don't really want imports at all. Basically, very little trade going back and forth. And so, yes, there is some that comes from the United States, some of it with low or no tariffs until you get to a certain amount, a quota, and then there are massive tariffs after that, like 400%. But what do you get from the Trump side? They keep highlighting the Trump himself. 400% tariffs, totally unfair. Yeah, after a certain quota is met, the tariffs go up to 400%. Because Canada just doesn't want to trade in dairy. But that's only part of the story as well. So that you've got that going on in Canada. But what they never mention is why are they so focused on getting access to the Canadian market to sell milk and cheese? It's because they also have powerful political lobbyists on the U.S. side. And it's not exactly squeaky clean. fact, it's not clean at all. I would say it's also very corrupt. They have the National Milk Producers Federation. Been around like for a long time. Okay. And they work with and lobby federal and state officials on issues like pricing, school meals, labeling, all kinds of different regulations, immigration, labor, of course, right? Environmental rules, export markets. There's the key, the export markets. You've also got the International Dairy Foods Association on the U.S. side. You have the Dairy Farmers of America and Land O'Lakes. Those are among the industry's biggest spenders on the U.S. side for advertising and political lobbying. They can't, because of U.S. laws, directly donate these organizations to candidates or parties, but they do have the political PACs. And as you know, on the U.S. side, because of deregulation and court ruling on how political parties can be funded, there's massive amounts of money flowing in from everything from the pharmaceutical industry to the oil industry and also the agricultural industry, right? Big ag, and dairy is part of that, just one part of the ag lobby. So why am I bringing this up? Because I'm just illustrating for you that there's more going on behind the scenes on that particular end, which is actually one of the key sticky points in these negotiations that are actually putting Canada's sovereignty at risk. The U.S. side has Trump is being influenced. The negotiators are being influenced by the big U.S. dairy agribusiness lobby. Millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions going into the political system in order to put pressure on them to come to force Canada to come to the table. They want access to the Canadian market. And as I've been telling you, and this is also the same for, the poultry industry, ostriches, which was indirectly related to all of this that I'm telling you. And it's because it's not the small dairy farmers on the U.S. side. It's, people have it in their heads that it's like, Farmer Joe and his wife Mary, and they run this cute little farm with some cows on it. No, we're talking like massive factory farms, huge U.S. agribusiness, cows pumped full of growth hormone so that all they do is just sit there all day and squirt milk, right? In massive quantities. Different standards, regulations, health concerns, hormones, antibiotics. How are these things being used? Canada's regulations, rules, and standards different than they are in the United States. All these different issues, but big, huge, massive corporate agribusiness on the U.S. side, putting massive amounts of pressure on the U.S. administration, the Trump administration, because they've been donating. They actually don't. What the game is they donate to both sides, to the Democrats and the Republicans, to MAGA. And then no matter who wins, they still have influence. Now, I can tell you that Open Secrets data has shown that the dairy industry has donated far more to Trump and MAGA than they did to the Democrat side. They do have substantial leverage here. They spend well over $100 million on federal lobbying since 2008. And this isn't even related to the trade issue. That's just because they're talking about they spent $100 million on lobbying just on issues like restricting milk, cheese, and yogurt language on plant-based products. So to kind of get protection for the market against competition from, non-dairy products that are alternatives, right? Like silk, soybean milk, which isn't milk, right? Or almond milk, those kinds of products. So I'm just highlighting all of that for you. And, you know, it's smaller than, say, the pharmaceutical industry, but still massive amounts of money being pumped into the whole thing. And that kind of influence extends even just to various levels. And it happens in Canada as well, because that affects even how the government frames like nutrition guidelines, the guidance that they'll give families on what you should feed your kids. So because of the dairy industry on both sides of the border, you see that they'll put, like, on the food pyramid or whatever they're doing these days, they'll have dairy in there. And because there's massive amounts, millions of dollars being pumped into political campaigns, they're applying leverage. And then, of course, you get like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they'll put dairy and recommended daily allowance of dairy or whatever. It affects how much, or even if it's on those lists. So then what you get is the same thing that happened with the pharmaceutical industry today, and especially during the pandemic, when you have massive amounts of money coming from any industry, whether it's the pharmaceutical industry or the dairy industry or the auto industry. It has an effect on, well, in the pharmaceutical side, on government policy. Should there be like a mandatory jab for people? Well, I don't know. Joe from, XYZ pharmaceutical company donated $1 million to my campaign. So, I don't know. Joe's usually pretty reliable. And now you're getting decisions being made, not based on science, but based on influence, political and monetary. And then you're getting political decisions being made here, geopolitical decisions and campaigns, efforts, negotiations. These industries are disproportionately influencing how these trade talks are going on both sides of the border. You have competing forces in play. The Canadian dairy industry, much smaller, a lot of the farmers are smaller on the Canadian side. And so, well, they keep telling you, especially in the MAGA side, it's like, we're sticking up for the family farm. No, they're not. They want to tear down the protections for Canadian farmers so that the big giant corporate agri farms, like the factory farms, the huge dairy industry, can come into the Canadian marketplace. And it'll be cheaper. It'll be a lot cheaper. It'll lower prices. Yeah, it may, but the quality is going to be different. And the Canadian dairy farmers on the Canadian side largely are either going to be bought up, swallowed up, absorbed, assimilated, or by the big corporate actors, or a lot of them will go out of business. And that becomes a national security issue, food sovereignty, all of those things. But a lot of that also framed maybe for political reasons on both sides. Just saying, there's huge money on both sides, much more on the U.S. side. And if you're really focused on protecting family farms, the MAGA argument, the U.S. argument on this dairy issue is not that. Nor was it even during the pandemic. So I'm overlaying two different issues, but very much related, because during the pandemic, the Trump administration came up with some bailout money to help those family farms. Oh, those poor dairy farmers, got to help the farmers out, because that's always good political optics. So they put up a whole crap load of money, but it didn't go to the little guys. It disproportionately, by far, went to the big agri farms, the big guys. USDA pandemic bailout funds will go to the largest, wealthiest farms. This is from EWG.org news. this week, this is an old article, but I'm just highlighting it here from back in 2020. This week, the Department of Agriculture unveiled a pandemic relief initiative that will give farmers $16 billion in direct payments, just like the Market Facilitation Program, or MFP, which gave $23 billion in subsidies to farmers. This is the other issue that they don't touch on. Farmers are often, in various industries, subsidized by government. And that means you're already on an uneven playing field. And those issues have to be dealt with at the bargaining table too. But they're not talking about any of that in what they're spinning up in the narratives online in the midst of this trade war. You're not getting the fullness of information. $23 billion in subsidies to farmers, U.S. side, in response to President Trump's trade war. This is back in 2020. Most of the money won't go to small family farms, but to the largest and wealthiest farms, which need the money the least. Millions of Americans are this was what's going on back then. Yeah, he wasn't protecting the small family farms at all. Facts. Millions of Americans are struggling with the economic repercussions of the coronavirus pandemic. But whereas most families received only $1,200 stimulus checks for each adult and $500 for each child, the largest farmers can now get up to $250,000 per person from the new coronavirus food assistance program, with farm corporations receiving up to $750,000. The individual stimulus checks went only to people who made less than $99,000 a year. But 99,945 farms have each received Trump bailout payments totaling more than $99,000. Now farmers are once again eligible for taxpayer-funded government payments as long as they make less than $900,000 a year, 1.8 million, blah, 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 blah. Bottom line is the bulk of the money was going to the big dudes, to the big corporate farm operations, not to the little guys. Some of them didn't get anything. True story. And then you talk about political influence. There's more. Why is it happening? Why is Trump acting like this? Why are they going after the dairy industry in Canada? It's the 400% tariffs is so unfair. They've treated our farmers so unfair. Yeah. Is it surprising that he would say something like, given that the Trump campaign advisors received over $2 million in trade bailout payments related to everything I'm talking about right now? This goes back, man. 15 members of an agribusiness council that advised Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign have received $2.2 million from the federal bailout program for farmers hurt by the president's trade war with China. 2 months before Trump won the 2016 election, his campaign announced the formation of an agriculture and rural advisory committee designed to smooth over any misgivings farmers might have voting for a rich Manhattan playboy. The council was a who's who of industrial agriculture luminaries. It goes on. Are you getting the picture? You scratch Trump's back, he protects your industry. You scratch Trump's back, he'll initiate a trade war for you. You scratch his back, he'll even prevent a bridge from opening to get a better deal for the people. Corporate rich dudes, oligarchs. That was then. This is now. This is ramped up now. This is crazy stuff, right? The irony in all this is a lot of those dairy farmers in Quebec on the Canadian side. They're the ones screaming and hollering all the time about separating. No wonder the people in Alberta get upset. I think we should all maybe be a little bit upset because it goes beyond those, Quebec, Ontario too, but a lot of them in Quebec. And the irony in all this is that the language issue came up again, right? Which also not really truthful reporting or honest reporting surrounding a lot of that. And, or maybe more to the point, a lot of what you're seeing online through the influencers, certainly not honest, designed to polarize and get you to think about it in a particular way. I'm just saying, you've got the separatists in Quebec, this in the dairy industry, a lot of it centered there, and yet the whole country is putting it on the line. The whole country, the sovereignty of Canada, is really at risk here, with that being one of the cornerstone issues at the bargaining table. And so you've got, I don't know how much of the people in the dairy industry are would-be separatists, but you see the irony. We're protecting a lot of the people in a province that wants to separate by putting the sovereignty of the country on the line, potentially breaking up the whole country to protect them. And the whole, don't even get me started on the Alberta thing tonight. Because they don't want to help. They don't want to give, they don't want to add anything to leverage. And you know, maybe wisely, you probably shouldn't at this point do anything like cut off the oil or even put a surtax or anything on oil exports to the United States. Because yes, if you do that, the people who are already pissed off because they think that they're getting ripped off, typical MAGA language, which is, anyway, all of Canada's ripping us off. Now you put a surtax on and yeah, they don't care about it, just gets them even more upset. Just stay out of it. We'll take care of it. Whatever. It's very complicated, right? That's why this whole thing with Maine is so important, I think. Are you familiar with the Maine issue? Well, there are a bunch of issues in Maine, really, but here, let me show you Maine. I put this on our X account. Lobster fisher people. Anyway, there's been an ongoing dispute there for a long time because they share the same fishing or harvesting grounds with Canadian lobster people. Claws up, snap, snap. Our song. Maine lobstermen should not become collateral damage. This is from Maine, the Maine wonk. Maine lobstermen should not become collateral damage in broader trade dispute. Losing access to such an important market at the height of our fall season could be devastating to fishermen and coastal. Yeah, it's because Maine lobstermen, the Maine lobster industry, M-A-I-N-E, for those of you who maybe are listening instead of watching through our podcast. It's an integrated industry between Canada, the Canadian side, and the U.S. side. Says here, statement from the Maine Lobstermen's Association. The Maine Lobstermen's Association is deeply concerned by Canada's announcement that it will impose a 25% tariff on American lobster beginning September 8th. It goes on, and that's because a huge amount of what they catch goes to Canada for processing. Except the good news is, did I repost this? Did I post the new info? I think I did. Here it is here. Yeah, Canada takes the high road and shows compassion to struggling Maine lobstermen. So Canada overnight exempted them from tariffs. That 25%. Canada said, whoa, hang on a minute here. This is really going to hurt those guys. So we're backing off. 25%? Nope. The lobstermen exempt. The industry is heavily integrated in Canada, the U.S. Here's Senator Angus King. I haven't listened to this, but he highlights this for us.
Maine dodged a bullet this morning. Donald Trump imposed these ridiculous tariffs on Canada. They reciprocated with tariffs on our products going there. And over the weekend, one of the products they listed was seafood, including lobsters. it would have been a disaster for our lobster industry because in the fall, half of our catch goes to Canadian processors and then comes back. What we learned this morning is that the Canadian government backed off on lobsters and seafood. And this is a tremendous sigh of relief for the lobster industry in Maine. We've had our headwinds in recent years for lobster. As we all know, this is one that we didn't need. Fortunately, the Canadians have backed off on that tariff, and the Maine lobster industry that ran can breathe a sigh of relief.
So seems to me the reason Canada did this is because it is a political hot potato. There's more going on than meets the eye. I don't know if you're aware, but some months ago, prior to this current round of trade disputes, there was an information campaign that was launched out of Maine about the lobster industry there, outlining the longstanding grievances and friction between the U.S. lobstermen and the Canadian lobstermen, the industry there, and the videos that were produced and were going out at that time were portraying Canada as being very unfair, predatory, going into waters that should be and are controlled by Maine lobstermen. And there have been long-standing disputes between the two countries because the standards and the quotas not even on each side and not symmetrical. So there are long-standing grievances. There's also a huge amount of water, open water, as I understand it, about 270 square kilometers or something like that, that's in what they call the gray zone. And that is in dispute. It's a territorial dispute. Who really is allowed to control those waters? And so the lobstermen from both countries move into those territories to conduct their trade, right? And catch lobsters. So it's a long-going, complicated dispute. You can go online, you can find reports about this, because on the U.S. side, I know in the last year they imposed some new restriction on the lobstermen, where they increased the minimum size of lobsters that could be kept. And they were not happy about it, because I think it was it was 1/16 of an inch or something longer, but that in itself meant that it was going to be much more difficult for them to run their businesses viably. And the Canadians not facing the same restrictions on the Canadian side. So this is a long-standing dispute. Point that I'm making here is this stuff, I think a lot of it is pre-planned, has been planned for quite some time. Trump knew that was planning on this trade dispute, knew that it was going to blow up into this. And so they've been working in advance, coordinating a lot of these campaigns in order to create pressure points on various levels heading into these trade talks. Pressure points not just for the purposes of trade, but I think even to challenge Canadian sovereignty. And that is largely what's going on up there too, because you have this whole giant area of like 270 some kilometers that's a gray zone. It's in dispute. It's territorial waters that are in dispute between the two countries. Who should have access or control of them? And so when I'm seeing Trump doing what he's doing with the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico and now Lake Ontario, I take that stuff really seriously. And you should too, because I think it's pretty clear that it is more than just an exercise in renaming. And it is certainly more than just a joke, even though people are still laughing about it and making fun of it and mocking it online. It's more serious. This is a way to chip away, escalate, and eventually maybe even highlight this issue with the Maine lobstermen, and then really make the long-standing dispute, territorial dispute over the control of the waters between, the shared waters, a flashpoint in the trade negotiations. and the attempt to maybe even annex Canada. And so Trump doing what he did with Lake Ontario, the language is important. There's a little bit more to the renaming of the Lake of Ontario than people realize. In fact, some people posting tonight, at least one person, highlighting what I've been concerned about. The language is important. See if I can find it here for you. It's what he did when he signed that executive order. The language in the executive order, extremely important because it seems to seize territory, not just rename the lake. Too many tabs open. Where did you go? It's probably over here. Here it is. He didn't just rename it. He seized it. You see, Canada has and the U.S. have shared ownership, jurisdiction over Lake Ontario. But look at the language in this. In this post from Annie Dufour, the Sharpie was the spectacle. Section 2A of the executive order is the territorial claim. Well, most people stared at Donald Trump's big fat signature scribbled with his favorite instrument of international policy, the Sharpie. The fine print of the executive order went unnoticed. I think this was written with AI. But in any event, as always, the devil is in the details. The name change was the tip of the iceberg, and maps are more than names. Read the executive order. Quote, with the deepest parts of the lake's waters lying within United States territory, the United States claims most of the lake's volume. Section 2A. The verb is the weapon, claims. This is not a caption on a souvenir. It is an assertion of right. Then further reading of the order describes the machinery. Within 30 days, the Secretary of the Interior is to rename the lake Lake America, update the Geographic Names Information System, and remove all references to Lake Ontario from the GNIS. Not add a name, erase all mention of the old name from the official American Geographic record. After that, every federal map, contract, and government communication must repeat the new one. This is very Orwellian. It becomes news speak, you see, reframing reality, not just renaming it, but erasing all references, past references within computer systems, creating deeper justification and credibility. First, isolate a physical fact, the deepest point, the Rochester Basin sits off the New York shore, convert that fact into a title. The United States claims most of the lake's volume. That's water rights. Write the new name into the database, delete the former name, order the entire federal apparatus to speak as if the deletion had always been true. Once that paper trail exists, it can be cited in legal arguments to claim sovereignty. Our maps already call it Lake America, says Washington, meaning the MAGA house. From Sharpie to proof, China, and they make reference to the same method of acquisition or seizure being used by China in the South China Sea. Renaming the reef, inscribe the name on the official chart, send the ships, treat the chart as verdict. The name goes first, the patrol follows the name. And so this post suggesting that Trump is basically following that strategy, that playbook, in order to seize most, if not even all, of Lake Ontario by renaming it. And the renaming is really the seizure. Now, legally, this is a bit of a leap. Bring this up. With the deepest parts of the lake's waters lying within United States territory, the United States claims most of the lake's volume. So he didn't just rename it, he claimed it, claimed most of the lake's volume. Not all, but most. And that's important. It is important. It normalizes the idea that the United States controls and owns most of the lake and most of the lake's volume, most of the water. The water is a valuable resource. He just seized our water. Get it? Without firing a shot. He took the lake. There are other bodies, regulatory bodies that deal with cross-border international regulations, agreements, fishing rights, environmental issues. Specifically, the one that comes to mind with regard to the Great Lakes is the International Joint Commission. Now, they don't name things, but they'll be dealing with this in their own way now because of Trump renaming it all and seizing the lake with language. Is it a full seizure? It normalizes it. It brings it. It's an erosion of Canadian sovereignty with the stroke of a pen on a couple of levels. Legally, because of what's in that executive order, which doesn't really apply on the Canadian side, except that he's making the claim. And if Canada doesn't dispute it, it over time becomes precedent, established in history. And they'll point back, well, 10 years ago, Trump wrote this thing, see, and it's right here. It says that we control the volume of the water. The water's ours. Then it becomes a bigger legal dispute, and it's been around for a long time. And you have to challenge these things right off the bat. And it normalizes it. And the renaming of it also normalizes it and also puts in the minds of people that he has the authority to do this unilaterally, which he really doesn't. And that's why you're getting pushback, not just from the Canadian side, but the U.S. side. Politicians, leaders in New York especially, refusing to call it what he wants it called. Here's Trump pissed off about it, throwing a temper tantrum. But it's the right thing to do because it isn't even just about Canada. It's about First Nations, the indigenous communities, the history, going back hundreds, even thousands of years, leading to a consensus, a naturally occurring agreement among peoples, all peoples, settlers, First Nations, both sides of the border over time, that it's Lake Ontario. It's an indigenous name. Stupid Governor Kathy Hochul, who doesn't care about New York State, has announced that she is on the side of Canada, he posts today, which has been ripping us off for decades on trade and tariffs with a specific target of Hochul and her state. They're aiming at her because they consider her weak and ineffective, not nice. She doesn't want us to use the name Lake America. She'd rather have Canada get a win. That's the problem with Governor Hochul and many other Democrats. She allows other countries and states to take advantage of New York, which gets treated like garbage. They laugh at us up and down what was once called Lake Ontario, what is now called Lake America. That is why Bruce Blakeman is going to be your next governor. He's an animal. He fights like hell. He doesn't let anyone else win. He's for the people, is he? He's smart and cunning and will lower your taxes and stop crime. He'll even steal a lake for you. I mean, support the theft through the big mind F. Vote for Bruce Blakeman, President Donald J. Trump. He's an animal. He always wins, and you never let anybody else win because you don't want a mutually beneficial deal. You want to F the other side over. That's what he wants to do. F those guys. Not a fair deal. It's a deal where everything that's mine is mine, and everything that's yours is mine.
Maverick News. The new wave in news. Donate at maverickdonations.com.
You think that I'm exaggerating? You think that doesn't work? If you're Canadian and you think that I'm exaggerating with the US side, or you're the American, no, this shit works. Okay. The big mind F, it works. Of course it works. Advertising works. Why do you think companies spend so much money on it? Advertising works. Propaganda works. Here, look. Everything, there's a communist behind every bush on the Canadian side. Canada, right here, under this post. Look, go back at the 9/11 post. Just look at the people losing their minds. The CBC doesn't want to offend the millions of Arabs or Hindus that have entered our once proud nation, because they won't call it a terrorist attack. It's not quite the story. I am Canadian, and this is so wrong. Just because is being petty. We don't have to. We were scared too. We were affected. Yes, this really pisses Jane McNeil off. Everybody's enraged. T-Boz. Can't believe USA thinks Canada is a serious country. It's a banana republic. Dave, it's not the Canadian people. It's the WEF. Because CBC says it wasn't a terrorist attack, but they never actually said that. Well, it is a war. Carney declared it. Oh, Carney declared the war. Okay. That's not true. Oh my God. Canada is disrespecting the US. After the US disrespects Canada, we're victims. Okay. So Adam, different. Okay. Canada is run by communists. These Davos WEF elites will attack us and attempt to cause any harm they can. So you see, it goes from CBC says it's not a terrorist attack to the whole country is run by communists. When I just showed you that that's not really accurate, it's not really, CBC never actually said that, ever. And then it's got the Jewish conspiracy. It just goes on. So just throw fuel on the fire. You think it doesn't work? It's working. It works really, really well. I think it's time we just take Canada over. Fuck them, says Ronnie. And yeah, you see, it doesn't take much, does it? Let's invade. How many people will die? Loose talk? Serious? Not serious? Starts there. Oh, it's just a joke, but a week from now, maybe he was serious. Maybe he wasn't. Well, it may, but he said it. It's dangerous. Canada is not a reliable alliance in anything. It's all our fault. The terrorists entered U.S. from Canada. Let that sink in. Canada ripped us off for decades. Excuse me, and we are correcting the bad behaviors. They will go this low to instill more pain to those affected, stop all trades and talks. So they want to shut down the border, disconnect from. Let me ask Grok. Because I need to check that, because it's been 25 years. Here we go. Let's ask Grok. Maybe he'll lie. Maybe he won't. If it's a he or she or an it. Hey, Grok. Did the terrorists who attacked on 9/11 enter the U.S. through Canada? Maybe they did. It's possible. I don't remember. No, none of the 19 hijackers who carried out the September 11, 2001 attacks entered the United States through Canada. All of them obtained U.S. visas from American diplomatic posts overseas and flew into U.S. airports. The first two arrived at Los Angeles International Airport January 15th, 2000. The rest entered through East Coast airports, primarily in New York, New Jersey, and Florida between May 2000 and June 2001. In total, they made 33 successful entries through legal ports of entry in the United States. The idea that some crossed from Canada originated as an early unconfirmed rumor in the days right after the attacks. Subsequent investigations by U.S. authorities and the 9/11 Commission found no evidence for it. Officials from both countries have repeatedly stated that the claim is false. A separate case sometimes mentioned in the same context is Ahmed Rassam, the Millennium Bomber, who was caught in 1999, trying to enter the U.S. from Canada with explosives intended for Los Angeles International Airport. He was not one of the 9/11 hijackers, and yet that is what someone believes tonight, quite possibly because of the ramped up rhetoric talking about how terrorists are flowing across the border from Canada right now, because, Canada is just a great big terrorist state. Of course, as I recall, Canada did help out the U.S. immediately after the 9/11 attacks. The border was shut down. You had airplanes in the air that had no place to land. Gander, Newfoundland said, hey, bring that plane here. People took the Americans into their homes in Newfoundland. Just opened their doors and their arms and their hearts. And then we sent our sons and daughters to fight in Afghanistan with America. And lives were lost. And we sacrificed shoulder to shoulder. But follow the truth always. Wow, the irony. Posts tonight. Canada is not a reliable alliance in anything. The terrorists, 9/11 terrorists, entered U.S. from Canada. Let that sink in. Canada ripped us off for decades, and we are correcting the bad behaviors. They will go this low to instill more pain to those affected. Stop all trades and talks. Is that truth? Follow the truth always is the account. Whoever that is hates us. Whoever that is hates Canadians. Whoever that is blames Canada for the 9/11 attacks. Because they've been deceived, manipulated. My God. Where are we going, folks? That's just random. That's just me scrolling. And that's what's out there tonight. I remember 9/11, almost 25 years ago. I remember the day vividly. And I remember how scared everyone was. I also remember how the whole world was behind the United States in that moment. Man, the U.S. had the whole world with it. Not anymore. Everybody's divided. Everybody's afraid. And the people that you're listening to, do you think are giving you the truth? No. No. Look at what they've done. America's best friend. Relatives. Ally. Canadians. You had airplanes in the air with no place to go, no place to land, no home to go to. And Canada said, you bring them here. The people of Newfoundland, Gander, don't you remember? Don't you remember? And the people who went there, they said it was ganderful. Canadians opened their doors to you, their homes, their hearts, in a moment of need, without question, without hesitation, because we love you. Because we love you. He's lying to you. The whole damn fucking thing is a lie. I sit here and I keep trying every night. You guys, I just don't know. It's so depressing. Because they're so damn determined to tear it all down. Because they want it all. I don't know. I don't think anything I'm saying here tonight is going to make that much difference. Maybe a little bit. Maybe that's enough. Maybe, I don't know. Enough. There's other stuff like there's other news I could talk about tonight, but who cares? Oh, the president gave Jeremy Hansen a medal. NASA astronaut, first Canadian to go near the moon. So what? Trump probably hated every moment of it. Every freaking moment. Every second of it. Because he hates us. He doesn't love the Canadian people. I don't know if he loves anybody. At a minimum, he doesn't care. I did put that medal on that Canuckistanian today. No, we never went to the moon. It's not real. It's all fake. Yeah, we went. He went. It's real. Because while he was pinning that medal on Jeremy Hansen, he was also announcing some expanded, I don't know, something about they're militarizing space. That way we can have wars in space. Blow shit up there too. Yay. Go America. Do things burn in the vacuum of space when you blow them up? Fuck. Not looking in the chat. Probably a bunch of people in there punching me in the face right now. If not there, elsewhere. Half of them. I remember what it was like. The before times. God, I miss them. Don't worry, I'm not giving up. I'm just tired. Just tired. I'm going to go to sleep for a while. I'll see you tomorrow. No movie tonight. It's enough. It's enough. See you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Welcome to the Matrix. Chasing the high, everything's fake, psychedelic sky. They said you're free, that's the game. Different screen, always the same. You are what you believe, that's the key. Lock your mind, lose reality. If you believe it, it comes alive. Truth gets buried, nobody survives. The world is watching, brains are washing. Living the lie, glazed over eyes, hypnotized. Story louder now. Truth gets lost inside the crowd. Think you're awake, it's in your head. Different cage, dream is dead. The world is watching, brains are washing. Living the lie, glazed over eyes, hypnotized, zombified. Living the lie, no way to hide. Truth denied. Switch it off, take back your mind. Living the lie. Break it down, shut it out, turn it off right now. Break the screen, cut the fade, take back what you need. Living the lie, glazed over eyes, hypnotized. Zombified, living the lie, too tired to fight. Wake up now, take it back tonight.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.